Hey, so welcome back to our fourth video for inequality and interval notation. And in this page of the notes, we're looking at real-world examples of intervals. So in the first one, if you have to be over 4 foot 10 inches to ride the roller coaster, what is the set of allowable heights according to this policy? The key word there is over. Over means it's not including the 4 foot 10 inches. So that interval would need to start with a parentheses because the 4 foot 10 inches is non-inclusive. So 4 foot 10 inches, comma. And when we're reading this policy, there's nothing that says there's a limit or an upper bound. It just says they have to be over. So technically, according to what's written, this would be to infinity, and then we would end that interval with a parentheses, and that's a strict interpretation. Now you'll notice down here it says real-world situations can sometimes be interpreted differently, so explain your reasoning. So I just explained my reasoning for having an upper bound of infinity based on the fact that there's nothing written in the text that says otherwise. Now, if you were answering this question on a quiz, for example, and you chose instead of going up to infinity to put an upper bound there of, say, whatever the tallest human on earth is, so maybe 7 feet if you were to look that up. So if you put an upper bound and put a bracket and then you justified that by saying the tallest person on earth when I looked it up was this height, that would be an acceptable interpretation, right? Because you wouldn't have a person that was taller than the tallest human riding this roller coaster. Okay, so anytime you are taking liberties with these real-world situations that aren't explicitly written in the description, that's when you're going to need to justify your reasoning there to have it make sense. Okay, so in the next one, if you are 14 years old, you can get your permit in Nebraska and take your driving test for your junior license on your 16th birthday. Okay, your junior license will turn into a senior license automatically when you turn 18, and we want the interval for the junior license. So there was a lot of information in there. I'm not sure it was all necessary. So let's go back up and see what's relevant to the interval for the junior license, right? That's what we want to focus on. So if you are 14 years old, you can get your permit. So that really isn't relevant in this particular scenario, because when you get your permit doesn't tell us anything about when you have your junior license. So we don't care about that. Okay, then it says you can take your driving test for the junior license on your 16th birthday. So assuming you had a permit, which, that is safe to assume because it's written here, your 16th birthday would be the lower bound for your junior license. So we would include the 16, so we'd have a bracket there on the 16 because it's inclusive, and then let's look for the upper bound. So your junior license will turn into a senior license automatically when you turn 18. So on your 18th birthday, do you still have a junior license? So if it's a senior license on your 18th birthday automatically, then it's no longer a junior license, and that means that the 18 needs a parentheses, because all the way up to the second before, the nanosecond before, 100th of a nanosecond before you turn 18, it's a junior license, but the moment you turn 18, it's a senior license. So this interval is from 16, including everything up to, but not 18. And that would be the interval for your junior license. Now, in this scenario, there is no other interpretation, right? There's so much information provided, we can't make any assumptions. So this would be the only correct interval. Okay, then in our last example here, we have the vapor state of water is what interval, because water freezes at 32 and boils at 212 degrees. So if you remember from middle school science, vapor is hotter than boiling, right? Your water turns to steam or vapor at that boiling point. So that word "at" here, that tells me that it includes the 212. So we would have a bracket at 212 and then no upper bound, because there's nothing in the text here that tells me that it could go into any other state other than vapor. So now I'd like you to pause the video and give these 3 examples a try on your own. You're going to place the parentheses or brackets in the locations that are appropriate to create an accurate interval in each of these real-world situations. Okay, then when you've given it a try, you can come back and we'll go over the answers together. So in this first example, we're looking at the liquid state of water when water freezes at 32 degrees. That "at" is important because if it freezes at 32 degrees, it is ice, which is not liquid at 32 degrees. So the 32 would be a parentheses. Okay, and it boils at 212 degrees, which then it's vapor or steam, no longer liquid. So the 212 then is also a parentheses. And the liquid state of water is that interval from 32 to 212 non-inclusive. Okay, the solid state of water when water freezes at 32 degrees. So it's ice at 32 degrees, which means that 32 is inclusive, so it gets a bracket. And anything colder, according to this interpretation, is going to be negative infinity. It'll still be frozen, and so the interval is negative infinity to 32. The 32 is inclusive, the negative infinity is not. Okay, legal voting age in the U.S. So underneath it tells us the 26th Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibits the states and federal government from using age as a reason for denying the right to vote to citizens who are at least 18 years old. So at least, right? That's what we need to focus in on there. So if they are at least 18 years old, does that include 18? And the answer is yes. So we have a bracket at the 18, and then infinity always gets a parentheses.